Hi, good morning. My name is Trio Harris. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I am the Restorative Justice Facilitator at McClymonds High School. And welcome to our Restorative Justice Room. At McClymonds High School, my role is to train staff and students primarily on Tier 1 restorative justice and practice interventions that could include social emotional learning, community health and well-being, as well as really transforming our mindset around community development and the repairing of harm. So with that in mind, I'm going to go straight into my presentation about McClymonds High School and the work that we're currently doing in our larger community. So let me share my screen. So my presentation is on measuring parental influence over youth's sense of agency through transformative social emotional learning at home. Currently at McClymonds High School, our culture and climate transformative social emotional professional development has centered around using affective statements and I statements. So saying things like, I feel really angry when you touch my hair without my permission, because my hair means a lot to me. When other people don't ask for my consent or obtain my permission to grab my hair, I feel really sad. And what I need is people to ask before they touch me. So those kind of conversations and narrations aren't necessarily easy for students on campus, let alone adults. But through practicing those together, we can build that affective community that we want to be a part of together. We've also been able to look at restorative positive behavioral interventions and supports, specifically through Los Angeles Unified School District and their model for building a restorative school culture and climate. For them, that means being safe, responsible, respectful, resilient, and restorative. Also, during PDs, we take time to think about restorative and transformative social emotional learning via training on restorative self-awareness and self-care. So here we have young people and adults, community partners, and parents fill out self-awareness and empathy questionnaires and assessments. We also have them do activities where they're asked questions like, when do you feel defensive? How do you defend yourself? We also ask students, staff, parents, and partners to list 5 ways they could be kinder to themselves, as well as narrating what they know about themselves to be true, what they've been told about themselves, and what they want to be true about themselves. So through using different types of narrative psychology, we can also build social emotional learning on our campus with staff and currently have been. Moving forward, when we talk about creating physically and emotionally safe spaces on campus, we do have our Library Information Technology Center, our LIT Center. At our LIT Center, we host all professional development for our community partners, our staff, and our parents. Our Library Information Technology Center is a space where many young people can come to learn, but also to relax and have a space to be with other people in community. There's often music playing, there's often essential oil, there's often some kind of soothing environment that's being produced and being purported in the library when working with young people. We want to make sure that young people can come to the library, not just to do work, but to also de-escalate and decompress if they need to. So we also have an Africana Center. In our Africana Center, it's actually an art gallery that teachers can instruct in using specific curriculum from one of the local community colleges, Merritt College, and their African American Studies program, in which they had local artists come in and renovate a space so that we could actually have blended learning using art from the African diaspora with young people. And that's actually where I teach my Introduction to Restorative Justice class. And the next part of this presentation is actually about the restorative justice room, where we are right now. So in my office, in the restorative justice room, I have a chime, I have essential oils, I have all different kinds of social emotional learning tools. I have coloring sheets for young people. I have pictures of family members and loved ones to really inspire that idea of family being essential and the home being essential to our lives as educators, but also to young people, and saying that we need to invite our home into the classroom. So when we evaluate these practices and these standards, currently in McClymonds High School, we do have measurable goals for our pathways, our vocational pathways. So we have an engineering pathway, we have an entrepreneurship pathway, but we currently don't have social emotional academic learning pathways. So as you can see here, based on this picture at the bottom, we do take young people from education to the workforce, but we're not giving them social emotional capacities that are going to assist them in the workplace when they have conflict, for example, or how to really talk about difficult situations that might come up in the workforce. So we need programming, we need to assess, and we need to be able to have professional development just for social emotional learning. And that comes directly from our course readings. We need to make sure that our methods don't fail to engage stakeholders in designing a shared school-wide expectation and climate practice. So at this moment in time, our principal, as well as our larger culture and climate team, is really trying to think about how do we re-engage investors so that we can have specific pathways around mindfulness, around wellness, around a larger sense of belonging for young people on our campus. So what changes need to occur in my community and at McClymonds High School? Well, again, as I was saying, we need to provide a means of expanding what collective professional development opportunities can look like when we're working with our community partners, our stakeholders, and our parents. So we must, in this work, establish parents as additional supports for students where they can reinforce SEL skills that they're learning in school. So for example, restorative justice and social emotional learning has to start at home. That idea of being able to repair harms, talk about conflict, build meaningful reports and relationships, it starts through having adults in your home environment or in your local community being able to model and mentor those healthy relationships and behaviors so that young people can have someone to look to when it comes to how they want to hold themselves accountable and how they want to behave in their larger civil society. So again, parents and community partners need to be essential players in affirming culture and identity. So that's why I have a picture over here, different families, but same love. So recognizing that some of our youth come from group homes or blended extended families, and that love that they get from their family can't be replaced by the school. And so we have to recognize that we have to be in partnership with parents, and that's the only way this is going to work for us. So my restorative plan for my classroom, school, and organization is to actually implement a survey from an article that's called How to Sell Social Emotional Learning, Parents and the Politics of Social Emotional Learning. And in that particular article, the author, whose last name is Tyner, actually provides a survey, a very explicit survey that asks questions that get directly to the core of restorative and transformative social emotional learning competencies. So through this work, he encourages us to invite parents and caretakers to complete the survey. In particular, what I would like to do is have parents during family events on campus complete the survey with young people. So as you can see here in this picture, what I found is during family events, that's the time when we can have food, we can break bread, we can laugh, we can experience joy, and talk about ways to really change our community in a way that's not going to be, well, hard to talk about. When we're eating food and we're sitting together, we want to actually have a conversation. It's not tense. And so this can be that time to really invite parents and community partners to sit down, to have a meal, to have a drink, and really hold us as a school community accountable to how we're providing services to their young people. When we do this work, of course, we have to rely on the usage of plain language that can specify how to best scaffold indirect methods of social emotional learning with parents and caregivers. So we want to have direct ways of applying social emotional learning, but also really, really indirect ways that may not be so overt to our young people, so they can internalize and normalize social emotional learning at home and bring it to the school environment. And so to do that, we really have to leverage the influence of parents, which is why making meaningful family events on campus and off campus will be so important. So meeting social emotional needs and enhancing my restorative environment involves supporting adults and their interplay with and influence over the agency of young people in schools through using transformative social emotional learning at home. And that came from an article that I researched, and the article was titled Transformative Social Emotional Learning in Pursuit of Educational Equity and Excellence. So in this article, as well as Tyner's article, I was able to really take this survey in my Introduction to Restorative Justice class, give it to my young people and have them assess it, as well as having them take it home and giving it to their parents. And so through that, we were able to analyze some survey results to see how agency is focal among self-management competencies and how it signifies perceived and actual capacity to affect change through purposeful action. So our young people actually said, well, how do we actually know that our parents know what's best for us academically? Just because they want indirect or direct social emotional learning in my math class, that doesn't mean that I necessarily need it or that they know what's best for me. So already within the conversations that I'm having, I am getting pushback and feedback from young people around how they want to express their agency around their social, emotional, and academic blended learning competencies and strategies in the classroom, which is very, for me, exciting to see. So here are my references, because I really am nothing if an academic activist, and I want to make sure I amplify the voices of those who have been doing this work and who have made it possible for me to be at McClymonds High School and successfully roll out transformative social emotional learning with our staff, but also with our students and parents, and try to push that into the home. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll stop sharing my screen. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks so much.